Hello and welcome back to another UCL fantasy video. Today we're going to take a look at the best captaincy choices for match day 5 and look at some of the stats behind each of those picks. Starting us off, we are going to look at our odds just to kind of grab a rough look at some of the best teams, some of the better teams, whether we want to pick a defender or do we want to pick an attacker. So we'll start off with our clean sheet odds, and this is kind of a captaincy on a defender is, a big ask a lot of the time, so we are looking for the more attacking defenders who potentially pick up a lot of ball recoveries in there as well. So Napoli is our top team this week. Di Lorenzo could be a slight consideration, but in terms of actually, applying a captaincy to him, I would argue probably isn't the best choice. Manchester City, your best option is probably going to be Vardiol as well, and again, playing at centre-back is not really going to be amazing. Copenhagen don't really provide a lot of defensive options, and then you've got Real Madrid and PSG. I would argue out of that list of 5, your best choice is probably going to be Nuno Mendes. He's probably the only defensive consideration that I would have out of those 5 teams, playing against Spurs with, of course, fantastic attacking threat and a nice 40% chance of a clean sheet as well. For the over 2.5 goal odds, that is kind of where we want to look mostly, because we are more than likely going to put our captaincy on an attacker. Our main attacking teams this week are Manchester City and Liverpool. City have a 56% chance of scoring over 2.5 goals, and something to keep in mind as well with a team like Manchester City, the majority of their goals do come from Erling Haaland. I think it's been a very popular stat in the Premier League that I think Haaland has like 12 or something goals like that, and then it was a Burnley defender with 2 own goals who was the second highest goal scorer for Manchester City. So a 56% chance of City scoring over 2.5 goals. There is a very good chance that the majority of those are scored by Erling Haaland. Liverpool are playing against PSV, 54% chance. A little bit of a harder one to choose between their attackers, Mohamed Salah being the standout pick, but there is a couple of people speculating that he might not start and potentially be on the bench for that game, so it does kind of open it up for other options. Copenhagen, the main striker, the one on penalties is going to be Jordan Larsson. He has scored, I think, 5 goals and got 2 assists so far for Copenhagen this season, and already has bagged a Champions League goal. Wouldn't be a consideration if it was any other opponent, but playing against Kairat Almaty at home is going to be a very decent shout. Copenhagen have already scored 2 goals in both of their home fixtures as well so far in the Champions League, which does kind of increase that appeal a little bit more. Napoli, I think Højlund and McTominay are probably going to be your main 2 options. I don't think any of them are the penalty taker, however, which can obviously impact captaincy. And then we've got Real Madrid as well, who are playing away from home to Olympiacos, but still hold a decent chance, a 43% chance of scoring over 2.5 goals. Obviously, your main threat there is going to be Kylian Mbappe. So overall, I don't think Tuesday is the best day for captaincy. We've only really got 3 fixtures here that we could potentially look at, and it's Galatasaray versus Union SG, and then Napoli and Man City against both of their opponents at 8 PM as well. So the 3 players I've picked out are Osimhen, Scott McTominay and Erling Haaland. I think Osimhen is a really, really good option for this week. He's absolutely smashed it, picked up a hat-trick in match day 4. The only problem is his availability, his fitness isn't great right now. He's holding a potential injury. We are, of course, going to see the lineups, but it doesn't look likely that he is going to be starting. He isn't in the predicted lineups. So I think that does kind of affect whether that is a good captaincy option or not. So with that being said, the pick I will be going for on Tuesday will be Erling Haaland. Again, I think there is a very good shout if Osimhen is starting to go for him captaincy, but that doubt does make me just think Haaland is the safer option. He has an 80% chance of an anytime goal or assist, which of course is absolutely huge. He's sitting 5th for points amongst forwards as well with 35 so far. Played against Leverkusen, who are sitting 21st in the Champions League right now. They've conceded 10 goals, which is 7th. There's only 6 teams that have conceded more goals than them. But I think the main thing is going to be that shots conceded there. Again, sitting in 8th with 63 shots conceded. So Again, on paper, you would think Leverkusen are, one of the better teams in the tournament, but in terms of, shots and goals conceded, they're sitting bottom 8. Which is obviously a really good opportunity for someone like Erling Haaland to really capitalise on that. 6.9 expected goals conceded, which is 13th, which isn't too bad, but I think with the amount of shots that they do concede and the goals that they've conceded so far, I would definitely be expecting Erling Haaland to grab 1 or 2. On Wednesday, there's a bit more variety of picks that you can choose from. The 4 target games, I'm looking at Copenhagen against Kairat Almaty, PSG against Spurs, Liverpool against PSV, and then Real Madrid having Olympiacos. And I've picked out 5 players here that could potentially take that armband. We've got Jordan Larsson, again, already spoke about his stats so far. I think he could be a nice value pick and a huge differential captaincy. Nuno Mendes and Kvaratskhelia, both great picks from PSG. It depends what route you want to go. Obviously, PSG are quite high for clean sheets as well this week, so Mendes could be the one to choose because of his attacking threat. But if you want to purely go for an attacker, someone with a hat-trick kind of ceiling, Kvaratskhelia is probably the guy to choose. Mohamed Salah is also in there. You can't not consider him for captaincy, but again, slight concerns over whether he does start that match or not. And then of course Kylian Mbappe, one of the best informed players in world football right now. So looking at some of Mbappe's stats, he has 35 points so far, which puts him in 3rd amongst forwards, and he has a 71% chance of an anytime goal or assist, which is not as good as Erling Haaland, but is still absolutely huge. Obviously that away fixture will come into play with that one. Real Madrid are sitting in 3rd as well for expected goals so far, so a very good attacking team in the Champions League. Currently, looking at Olympiacos as the opponent, they're sitting in 31st in the league, so bottom 6, or bottom 5, would that be? 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, bottom 6 for the Champions League. They've conceded 9 goals, which is 9th, so bottom 9, they've actually conceded less goals than Leverkusen as well, which is something to keep in mind. For expected goals conceded as well, they aren't actually looking too bad. Now, I've picked Mbappe basing on the fact that this is a safe pick, it's a good fixture, and Mbappe, has a massive ceiling, 3-4 goals in him. But Olympiacos aren't actually that bad. Expected goals conceded, mid-table, shots conceded, 25th. It's not that bad at all. They're not conceding a ton of shots. They're not conceding a lot of expected goals. So I think Mbappe is still the best option you can go for, but if you do want to go more differential, I think there are a lot of options you can pick. So we just looked at 5 choices there. I think Mbappe is the safe option. It's harder that he plays on Wednesday, because on Wednesdays you really need your captain to do something, so Mbappe is just the safe go-to choice on that. But based on the Olympiacos' stats, they're not actually that bad, and I think you could potentially go differential if you wanted to this week. So overall, this is how I rank this week's captains. On Tuesday, we've got Haaland, followed by Osimhen, who I think is a very close second, who I definitely would be considering for a captaincy if he is going to start. And then I've got McTominay in at 3rd. For Wednesday, obviously picking out Mbappe, but I really don't mind the Nuno Mendes shout, playing at home to Spurs with nice clean sheet odds and has a very decent chance of picking up some goals. Pedro Porro, if he does start, isn't the best defender in the world. It could potentially be Jed Spence on that side. We'll have to wait and see, but I think there is a decent chance that Mendes does really well in that match. So I think Mbappe is the safe pick, but I really like the Mendes shout. And then my differential pick in at 3rd is going to be Jordan Larsson. Again, spoke very highly on him so far. 5 goals this season, 1 goal in the Champions League, playing against one of the worst defences. I think they're the 2nd worst defence in the tournament right now, and I think he's a very, very good chance of a haul. So if you're looking for an ultra differential captaincy for this week, Jordan Larsson would be the guy to go for. But I definitely think overall it is a safe choice just to go with the 2 standouts in Haaland and Mbappe. So that's going to be it for this week's captaincy video. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you agree? Are you going to play it safe, or are you going to go differential? Thank you all so much for watching. Remember, my deadline stream is live at 3 PM today, so make sure to turn on notifications so you know when that goes live and don't miss out on that. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.